Warning: the Dub Talk podcast contains strong language and content that may not be suitable for younger audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Also, there's the possibility that spoilers for the first 5 episodes of SSSS.GRIDMAN will be discussed, so please be careful if you've yet to watch and don't wish to be spoiled. And finally, the views and opinions expressed here are that of the individual participants and do not reflect upon the Dub Talk podcast as a whole. Well, now that we got that out of the way, I'm ready to take it nice and easy and... Oh my god, the city's under attack! A giant kaiju's attacking the city and... Why does it look so... cheesy? Welp. There's only one thing left to do. Access code! Gridman!
The evil Kilo-Khan lives inside computer circuits. With the help of Malcolm Brink, he creates megavirus monsters to attack electronic systems. Meanwhile, a freak accident turns Sam Collins into Servo. His friends join forces in their samurais attack vehicles. Together, they transform into the Superhuman Samurai Syber Squad. Superhuman Samurai.
Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Dub Talk, the show where a bunch of nerds get together and talk about a recent dub or dub announcement. Today, we're taking the Wayback Machine all the way to 1993, where we get our Dunkaroos and sit around the television for Gridman.
Excuse me, sir. I believe you're talking about Superhuman Samurai Syber Squad?
Or, S.Gridman.
Yeah, if you think I'm gonna call this, SSSS.GRIDMAN the entire episode, you are mistaken. That is hard.
Just say S to the 4th power Gridman. We're just gonna call it Gridman.
S4 Gridman is fine. But yeah, today we are covering Gridman, based on the Tokusatsu series Denka Chojin Gridman. Gridman the Hyper Agent.
Denka Chojin. Wait, what is... So does that just mean Hyper Agent in Japanese?
Something like that.
Okay. So...
Tokusatsu.
More or less, it is an old Tokusatsu property from, I want to say Tsuburaya?
Tsuburaya, yep.
Okay.
Inexplicably brought over to the U.S. by Deke.
Oh.
As Superhuman Samurai Syber Squad with... not Joey Lawrence, his brother.
Matthew
Lawrence, thank you.
So it sounds like it's very much a thing that a lot of 90s kids, not only in Japan would know, but a lot of Westerners who grew up with this localized variation of the show.
Oh yeah. It was really lo-fi for its time. It was basically syndicated for the longest time until, ABC picked it up. I remember watching this, Saturday mornings at, 7 in the morning because my parents weren't awake to get me in trouble for watching Power Rangers.
So, not only are you our resident Tokusatsu shill on the podcast, you also have a fair amount of history with the original show that was brought over to the States. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of memory of the show itself and its subject material.
The good news is, it doesn't seem like a lot of that is particularly necessary to enjoy / appreciate this new anime reimagining. By who exactly?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. This is from Studio Trigger.
Yeah, those guys. They've done all those things that aren't Evangelion.
And, little interesting thing about the director. One Akira Amamiya.
Okay.
He's done a couple other projects for Trigger.
Inferno Cop!
Mm-hmm.
Not to
Inferno
mention...
Cop and Ninja Slayer. Like,
and
the two...
Ninja Slayer.
Yeah, so before we go any further, you should probably tell the audience who we are.
That is a good point.
Okay, shit.
I got a little bit...
It's fine.
got a little too far reminiscing on myself. I forgot to introduce my crew for this trip way back. Let's start... Allow me to introduce my Gridman Alliance. First off, Jet.
Go, go, Gridman Rangers!
Next up we have Jamal.
It's Gridman time! You started it, Jet.
And last but not least, we have Andrew.
Access code Gridman action figure ready to buy at your local supermarket.
Available from
Okay,
Poindexter.
Available from Tucker Toby. Or Bandai.
I can't
Episode
believe
brought to you by Compact Computers.
I can't believe it's not
Oh.
Transformers.
Oh yeah, there are like
okay,
fun little fact. There are like Transformers references throughout this show.
There are references to other tokusatsu throughout this show.
This show has a lot of Easter eggs, by the way. Quite a lot of them to a plethora of different properties. We'll try and see if we can mention as many as we can stumble upon in regards to conversation.
But you guys probably want to know what this show is about, don't you?
Yeah,
Yes.
I also would like to know, what is the show about?
Alright, a plot description courtesy of Anime News Network. Yuta Hibiki awakens with amnesia and the ability to see things that others cannot. He first encounters a Gridman in the reflection of his friend Rika Takarada's computer, and it tells him to remember his calling. But Yuta doesn't understand what this means. Later, in the distance, he sees an extremely large monster, but it doesn't move. It's only when Yuta gets to school that the two sightings make sense. A monster attacks, and the hero Yuta saw on the computer screen pulls him within the computer and transforms Yuta into a giant hero named Gridman. And one thing I've got to note is, like, the monster designs and the animation, like, it really takes advantage of these sort of rubber suit tokusatsu elements of the original Gridman and, like, Ultraman. Like, everything is specifically designed to, you know, allow Gridman or Ultraman to really get rough with the monsters and not hurt the actor inside.
Oh yeah, like I particularly like the designs for the monsters. How like the CG looks classic in a way that kind of feels like a rubber suit monster. I really appreciate that.
I like the fact that like the CG looks intentionally almost a little stiff and cheesy in regards to just this feels like somebody animated a 90s tokusatsu like Sentai action show, and that is definitely a feat in itself. When I saw the name Akira Amamiya attached to the show, my immediate thought was, oh crap, are we straight up doing Inferno Cop again? That was my first thought. My second thought was, okay, is this gonna be Ninja Slayer, where it's like, it kind of baits people into thinking it's a serious show, but it's actually just the Inferno Cop shtick again, but in my personal opinion, not as good? Like...
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I know that's kind of what we know him for these days, but he has done, like, actual anime before. It's just been a very long time.
See, here's the thing. In hindsight, I'm aware that this is somebody who is an anime director and has an idea of what they're doing. I just kind of forgot about it because when I associate him with Trigger, my immediate thought was, this is something that was probably made for less than $2,000 and took at least an hour to make. That's...
Yeah, Yeah, see, I would have worried, but like I saw the first show, I was like, okay, this is going to be like an actual thing.
But then it turned out it was an actual thing, and like the framing of all these shots, like the way this anime looks, like the shot composition, the aesthetic of it, the character designs, the frickin' atmosphere, sound design. There's some really solid like world building going on, and just the designs. This is a cool, weird world, and it's like there's a lot of mystery to it, but it just... There's something about the show that really pulled me in, and there's a lot of different things that I think somebody can get watching from the show. If you want, like, a mystery, if you want nostalgic tokusatsu, if you want really interesting character drama or really funny character interactions, you get all that.
Yeah, and fun as all of that is, we are technically here to talk about the dub, so I guess we should go do that.
We'll talk about more of the show when we talk about it proper, but yes, let's get to
as
that.
we move along. Alright, so beginning off, we have our ADR staff. And boy, this was amazing sounding on paper. But we'll get to our opinions in a sec. Alright, so starting off with our director, we have one Clifford Chapin. You would know his directorial work from Akiba's Trip, Allison Zeroku, Darling in the Franxx, Planetarian, and he was off and on main director and assistant director for Yona of the Dawn. As for our scriptwriter, we have Clayton Browning. You would know his scriptwriting from such shows as Concrete Revolutio, Hanebad, Konkole, Lord of Vermilion, and the second season of The Silver Guardian. So
right.
we will be starting this off with Jet. How did you feel about the direction and scriptwriting?
Okay, so I had a feeling this was one of Clifford Chapin's projects for the season, since, so like right before the season began, he like tweeted that he was working on a show and he was like 6 episodes into it. So my immediate thought was, okay, going by what I know about like production schedules, it has to be either this or Double Decker, and someone else was on Double Decker. So I figured it had to be him, and it was him. And it was a good thing because he's usually pretty reliable. His work on that other Trigger Mecha show this year was easily the strongest of funny simuldoes for me this year, even if I didn't really care much for the show itself. And this is off to an equally strong start. I really like what I've heard of the performances so far, and I especially appreciate that each character sounds like distinctive enough that you can tell who's who even when you aren't looking at the screen. And while we haven't, had the chance to see the actors pull off any majorly dramatic beats, they've been doing really great so far, and I really kind of appreciate how natural a lot of the acting is for, like, the teenagers. That feels really refreshing for an anime thing. And, as for the script, so with me, I usually try to watch a little bit of the sub version first when evaluating a simuldub, or at the very least, I might like play the subtitles over the dub track just to compare the translation. But since this was a same-day simuldub and Funimation's video player doesn't really let me put subtitles over the dub track, I decided to just put my favorite ADR staff here, and it helps that Clifford Chapin is generally pretty good about sticking to the script for his stuff and trying to keep things as accurate as possible. So I trusted that him and Clayton Browning would do well with that, and so far I've been enjoying it. Aside from a couple of things to make the cast sound more like actual teenagers, there wasn't anything in the script that felt like it would have been too out of place, so I've been enjoying it so far. On both fronts, I'm definitely gonna give this good props. It's great.
Jamal?
Yeah, I too had the same thought as Jet did, except I thought it was either going to be this or rewrite it. And it's a good thing you brought up Akiba's Trip, because this is not his first go-around with same-day simuldubs, because, like, I think that had a harder question than this, but Akiba's Trip had so much going on in that show, whereas the other Trigger show he did, what was it?
Darling in the Franxx.
Because like Jet said, the dub was really good, it's just, I had a hard time really keeping into the show. But
Gotcha.
Cliff manages to put out a very impressive effort. The casting is pretty straightforward. I didn't really find anything out of place. And Clayton's script writing really works too. I have no problems with script writing whatsoever. Right now, it's really hard to nitpick on the dub, but the show itself, I'm gonna wait till final thoughts. So.
Okay.
That's fair. Andrew?
Okay, so, if we're going off of predictions that we're not talking about, like I said, Clifford Chapin was indeed one of mine solely because he was like, oh, I had, like, my next project, I had several of the episodes way early, and I actually heard something along the lines that, like, Gridman was actually, like, pretty far along in production compared to, like, a lot of other Trigger stuff that's usually done a little, like, closer to the mark.
Yep, I mean, I think they said it was, like, basically done already.
I mean, yeah, which was pretty interesting when I heard that, which definitely makes a lot of sense, but either way, it's just interesting to me regardless. That being said, there's a lot going on in regards to the sound design of this, like, more than just, like, the direction of the performances and the things the actors are saying. I really impressed by, like, the sound mixing and the engineering of a lot of the surrounding parts of the world. Like, a lot of the early episode is, like, just the ambience of school, the sound of cicadas, clubs going on, choir and band clubs, like, just all that stuff. Like, it's especially makes a lot of, like, the punchier, more dramatic moments really hit harder is when you just hear the ambience of summer, and there's no, like, dramatic music cue when you see, oh my god, there's kaiju all over the city. It's just pans up, it's just a giant kaiju and smoke, and you're just kind of sitting with it. And that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, it reminds me of, like, one of my favorite, like, little bits from the opening, which is just, like, you see all this mecha and kaiju stuff in the background, just, like, playing over really ordinary stuff, and I thought that was a really nice touch.
It's like the world around it is just so oblivious to all this actual stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting. Also, like, just I love the goddamn sound design when it's basically revealed that, oh no, Okane's a psycho. I love that scene so much, where he just knocks into her, the juice squeezes, he's just like, yeah, walks away, and just the goddamn fisheye lens of her weird eyeballs poking out, and just the squeezing of the juice as you just hear, like, the clubs going on, and just say nothing else. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. Okay, but yeah, like, the sound design in the show is phenomenal, and I want to give props to that aspect, because I think that's a very underrated thing that we ourselves don't always give proper praise to. That being said, the performances from all of the actors and the direction is pretty astounding. Like, I'm very used to Clifford Chapin very much being like alright, whatever the hell he works on, I'm going to probably be pretty impressed by, or I'm going to think, okay, that's about what I expect of good quality. But I'm particularly impressed by this one in particular. There's a lot of very subtle, unique, complicated performances by several actors in particular that have really, really stood out to me as some very standouts of the season, probably of the year even. And everything sounds so natural, as well as, like, the action is really cool, on point, and interesting. The script is solid. I like a lot of the things that are said by the characters. I'll mention more of the actual script when I mention some of them, but the script's funny, it's punchy, the dialogue flows naturally.
Yeah.
Like, stuff that seems like it would be very repetitive, like talking about what is amnesia, or just taking a kid to amnesia. It feels very natural and choppy, and just not choppy, natural and punchy. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm very impressed by this product overall as a whole. Like, I'm very much used to a lot of Cliff stuff being pretty good. I'm very impressed by this one.
Yeah, going off what you guys have been saying, one thing I have to definitely give props to in terms of direction and script writing is the world itself feels alive. Like, every voice, every sound effect, it has its purpose within the narrative. And, like, one of the most important things for me is, in terms of the script writing, the child characters, they sound like kids. Like, if the kaiju weren't attacking, they'd be, like, doing dumb stuff every weekend after school, and, like, all of it just felt really natural. And yeah, like Andrew was saying, the sound design overall is top-notch. Like, this, to me, is probably one of the closest shows that has come to basically the ambiance of Evangelion. Which is it's one of those things that is, like, really hard to pull off.
Hey, you guys, is this an anime that's like Evangelion?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
I like it. Here's the thing. I believe you're correct. I just find it personally amusing that every time there is a mecha trigger show, everybody's immediate thought was, oh, is this an Evangelion?
What?
Okay. I mean, okay. In fairness with Franks, that one was like literally straight up trying to repay that. So, like that wasn't just an is this a? It was like, of course it is.
It's just
This is more like it kind of reminds you of that too.
it's like there's a lot of mecha stuff, and Ava's not the only one.
But wait a minute, here's a question for you. Would you even consider Gridman mecha?
That's a good question, actually.
I mean, the first episode felt like a very typical mecha show. Well, not a typical mecha show to me, but like a very quiet mecha show.
It feels like it has a lot of the makings of other mecha anime, though it technically isn't.
Yeah, I would say like the first episode felt very much like the setup to a like serious mecha anime, and the rest of it has been a mix between like grounded character stuff and Saturday morning cartoon.
Honestly, it felt more Ultraman than mecha to me. So.
I think that
okay, like
it's kind of like three different shows in a way when I think about it. It's
yeah.
They all somehow come together and work very well for the most part, which surprises me.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very, very complicated product that we're getting. It's really fun. But in any case, like, character portrayals are, like, really good, too. And I'll be getting to each of the ones that I've really liked as the episode goes on. But in particular, like, there was a performance. I don't remember the character's name, but she was in the first episode and played by Danny Chambers. Like, I think she's the captain of the volleyball team.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, I know exactly which one you're talking about. I think it was Toikawa or something like that.
Yeah.
Tonkawa, there we go. But like, the whole thing with the volleyball team, like, that felt alive. And then when the monster attacks and, you know, destroys the gym with all of them inside, like, that was really intense. And
also, can we talk about that scene where it's just like the volleyball knocks her really like tasty looking hot dog out of her hand, and the scene is dead quiet. It's dead quiet, and like rewatching it today, I realized without even knowing that like Akane was who Akane was at that point in the series, it was like, oh my god, this scene is really lingering long. I'm very uncomfortable right now, but you can tell somebody fucked up big.
Yeah, and like even the scene Andrew was talking about with the homeroom teacher played by J. Michael Tatum.
Was that Tatum?
Like,
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, that was Tatum. That was definitely Tatum.
I thought so. I just did see him credited. Okay.
and like his interactions with Akane before and after the scene where he bumps into her, like, that... I guess this is a long roundabout way of saying, like, the world of Gridman feels alive. Clifford Chapin did a really good job. Clayton Browning nailed the characters. And, like, all around, the actors sound like they knew what they wanted to get out of the characters. So, all around, really solid job.
Actually, since I was also giving props to the engineering and sound design, props to Manuel Aragon. Oh god,
Aragon.
Your names. Aragon, Benjamin Tarani, Gino Palencia, and Nathaniel Harrison, since I see you're all credited here too. This project sounds great.
Yes.
And y'all deserve praise too. Thank you very much.
Yeah, like, we as Dub Talk, we're trying to do better about it now, but, like, in the past, we really haven't given the engineering crews their due. But, like, this is one of those shows where everything came together in a way that just, it felt alive. That's the only way I can describe it.
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, we need to move on to our first group of characters, and these are Gridman's allies in the fight against Sakaiju.
Okay, so y'all.
Can we talk about what this group is named?
Wait, before we say that, I want to lead into that. I know I was making a joke about the fact that not every Mecha Trigger anime is Evangelion, and this next group is not helping my case at all.
I have it written down right here. They are the Neon Genesis Junior.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh, God, yeah, the Neon Genesis High.
Junior High. Speaking of which, I don't buy that at least two of those characters are Junior High.
Like,
I don't
all
either.
but one, Andrew. Like, all but one. They look like grown adults.
Yeah. So, who are our Junior High students?
Alright, so first of all, we have the eccentric Samurai Caliber, who basically just walks around town with, like, 3 katanas at his back.
Four.
Just
4
katanas, thank you. Just
Can never have enough
around,
katanas.
He's just walking around town like he's constantly looking for a grant from the Ministry of Silly Walks. And he is... When he merges with Gridman, he forms a giant sword.
A guy with swords makes a sword. Who'da thunk it?
Which turns Gridman into Gridman Caliber.
It's so cool. It's so cool.
And Max is the big guy of the group. He has a face mask. He has long bluish hair.
He's the team dad.
And he's basically the team dad.
He's not basically, he is the team dad.
And when he enters into Junk, the computer that basically forms Gridman and all of his ally vehicles, he forms a giant pair of fists for Gridman, which creates Max Gridman.
It's so cool. Oh, I just got that.
Yep.
Max Gridman. Fuck, okay.
Boar, who is basically... He's basically, like, the smallest member of the group. He's feisty and, like, he gets a lot of great one-liners, which, by the way, it has to be mentioned that both Subaraya and the actor who plays Boar have confirmed the character is indeed male. And when he enters into Junk, God, I can't remember the name of the form he creates with Gridman.
Well,
but it's basically
He becomes the drill that will pierce the heavens!
That's where Boar's name comes from. You know, to bore, to drill.
Yeah. I actually didn't get that.
I did.
I don't get it either.
Bore as in putting a hole in something.
Yeah.
Oh, goddamn it.
I said I did get it.
And then there's Veet, and he doesn't matter.
And Vit, he shows up.
He
drives the van.
He's probably gonna do something like he's probably going to be very important next week.
I mean,
and make me eat my words. That's how this usually goes.
Here's the thing: he does have a form. You see it in episode 4, but only for a few seconds.
No, I mean, all of them have forms. We just haven't actually seen him get his one-off moment yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't he like a plane?
He's a VTOL or VTOL fighter jet.
Okay, there we go.
I guess we just don't know what his form does yet.
Okay, everybody's name is a pun. Okay, got it.
There you go.
All right.
Alright, so playing our 4 members of Neon Genesis Junior High, Samurai Caliber is played by Ian Sinclair. You would know Ian Sinclair as Hijikata Toshizo in Drifters. He's Seiichi Sugimoto in Golden Kamui. He's Ox in Juni Tyson. And Orang in Last Exile, Fan the Silver Wing. Max is played by Chris George. You would know him as the narrator in both Black Clover and Legend of Galactic Heroes Di Noia Teisa. He is also Nishigori in Yuri on Ice, Ugo in Yormangan, and Tetsuo Takahashi in Interviews with Monster Girls. Boar is played by Afia Yu. You would know her as Spinel's son in Cardcaptor Sakura Clear Card, Rita in Rage of Bahamut Genesis, Akane Mizuno in Tsukigakure, and Ryo Nakamura in Assassination Classroom. Vit is played by Chris Burnett. You would know him as Toru Muto in Shiki. He is Yoichi Satome in Seraph of the End, Hiroto Meihara in Assassination Classroom, and Itsuki Tomafusa in Blood Sea. So Jet, why don't you start us off?
Okay, so I don't really have much to say about Chris Burnett as Vit, since, like we said, Vit has kind of been in the background compared to the others as of episode 5. And he doesn't, sound quite as distinctive as the others, but, I mean, he's been pleasant enough to listen to so far, so, hopefully he'll get some time in the spotlight soon, and we'll get to see what his transformation does, because I really want to know what it does. Afia Yu as Boar has, that one's been really interesting for me, since, weirdly, I don't think I've heard her play an androgynous character before. I mean, I know she probably has,
She absolutely
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I've been enjoying that so far, and it helps that Boar's personality definitely, stands out the most among these guys, since, he has a lot of, bluster and bravado to him, he's very confident. And Afia handles that...
He is the, to make another obvious comparison, he is the Nonon Jakuzure of the group.
Okay, yeah, that seems pretty accurate. Anyway, Afia handles all of that pretty well. My favorite, little moment of her is probably being at the end of episode 5, where, where Boar complains about not getting to use his drills, and then there's, a little side note where I think it's, Max says, the drills are actually just for show, they don't really do anything. Yeah, I thought that was pretty funny for, a little blink and you miss it joke, and, it definitely kind of helped with the whole Saturday morning cartoon vibe that the show is partially going for. Mm-hmm. And, likewise, I've really been enjoying Chris George as Max, since, Chris George has, a really strong, natural presence to his voice, and, his deep, booming tone definitely makes for a good contrast to the other Neon Genesis guys. And, I guess that certainly helps, since I guess he's their leader. They haven't been super clear about that, but I guess he's the leader. But my favorite of the bunch is definitely Samurai Caliber, and that is largely aided by Ian Sinclair's performance. Samurai Caliber is a man of few words, and generally comes off as comically deadpan in regards to, how apathetic he is towards the world around him, but, how he's just constantly bumping into things. And, Ian Sinclair's delivery of said deadpan has been pretty hysterical so far. Especially that bit where he's just, standing around the school waiting for Hibiki and the others to get out. And it's wait. Of course, there are a few moments where we do get we get to see Samurai Caliber get, pretty passionate and loud, and, Ian Sinclair handles that pretty well too, and it's been a delight to listen to so far. All four of these performances are real good.
Jamal?
Yeah, I find he do pretty well. I mean, when they get the moment to shine is when they stand out, but when they're not in action, they kind of serve as like slight comic relief, especially Boar. When you first introduce them in episode 2, and Yuta doesn't understand what's going on, and he's on the phone with Utsumi, and Boar just decides to kick him right in the shins, like. It's kind of funny, but Afia does a very good job playing this character. I mean, it's nothing new for Afia. She can do this easily. Fit, I mean, he's a cool dude. You don't say much, but well, hopefully we'll find out what goes on with him later on. Max, when I first heard that, I knew right off the bat that was Chris George because I could identify him anywhere, unless he and Tyson are in the same scene together.
I did kind of think it was Tyson when I first heard it, too.
Yeah. But, yeah, he's not... But pretty much, Chris is large and in charge, and I think it kind of suits him very well. Samurai Caliber Ian, and it's kind of funny, because we're going to get to this part with the next character, but when Roots was making his list and he put Mysterious Boy, I was like, wait, no, that's not him. But I know there was a different character. Anyway, he did a pretty good job playing Samurai Caliber. He's kind of moved, and he only talks when he needs to talk. Otherwise, he's just chilling out, looking creepy. You don't entirely understand what the deal is, but he is very helpful with the team, and he does a very good job with his character. I don't really have much to say. It's not really much to say with these groups in general. I mean, they do their part for the most part.
Okay. I disagree that there's not a lot to say, but I'll start from the bottom. Chris Therm. Okay, in describing Boar, Max, and Vit, I describe them as following: Vit, a boy; Boar, a very good boy; Max, a very strong boy; and Caliber is best boy. Anyways, to explain, Vit very much, he's the only one who really, at the time of, we are talking about the first 5 episodes of the English dub of the show, by the way, he's the only one who, at the time of this, really has not done much, but I think he had one good moment in regards to, like, Rika's mom, played by Anastasia Munoz, asked them, "Hey, what do you guys do? Do you even have jobs?"
Yeah.
To which Chris's character Vit just says, "We work and then we don't work." Which,
yeah,
I love the description
it's basically
of that.
a roundabout saying we're fun employed.
It's basically saying we do what we gotta do, which is basically saying we're called what they do, temp jobs. That's what they should say, but it's just, I love the way he just says we work and then we don't work. I respect that. I respect that, you little sly pretty boy. I can't wait to see what you got in store. Boar, I love Afia's sassy, snarky tone. Anytime she gets to be this very sassy, like, sarcastic character. And that is perfect for the kind of character Boar is that he is just this little gremlin child, and he is the best at being the worst in that regard. And he's just so fun to play off of every other character, because he's the one making, he's the one getting Yuta and Utami very high-strung about the fact that, oh, the cute girls are gonna go play with the college boys, and he's making them very uneasy, and he's like, oh, what's your deal? It's just drama, who cares? Y'all are dumb. Also, probably, like, my favorite line of Boar's is just, like, when they're tailing the group date, if you will, with Arcadia, is that Boar just replies, "So did you go to stalker school, or is this a natural talent?" It's just, you can hear the glee and the delight that Afia's having, just having this tone. It's just, oh, it's so fun, and just chewing it all up, and Afia's killing it.
Let's split up. Stalking's a crime, you know?
Oh, that's so good. Boar is very much, first thing off, that is not a junior high student. I don't care what you're talking about. That's not a junior high student. So yeah, so Max is, first things first, that is not a junior high student. That is very strong and very adult body. But anime's done weirder things, let's be real here.
Yeah, I just suddenly had the thought of how do you do, fellow kids?
How do you do, fellow kids?
Jimmy!
Now I'm just imagining just Max is staring into his coffee and he just says unironically to Rika's mother, needs more cowbell. God. How do you... I can see it. Either way, it'd be great. But yeah, Max is a really interesting character. He's very much the voice of reason for this team, and he is the leader. He has one of the coolest transformations, and he's very much acknowledged as the strongest of the team, which is pretty high honor among everybody else. But he's also very wise and smart. He's very caring when it comes to talking about Yuta, as he's realizing he's having his own teenage emotional conflict, and he's like, you know what? It's very vexing watching you children try to go about this, as he's watching the unfortunate anime romance going on, and he's just like, you children are a disaster. It's so frustrating watching you two. And it's like, yeah, welcome to anime. I appreciate somebody who gets it. But no, I love the way Chris George sells his vocal performance as gruff but sincere, kind-hearted mentor person. And I think that's really cool. And also, how does he eat with that mask? How does he eat with that mask? I see his mouth moving as he's eating, and it's like, how does that work? Where does it go? Anyways, now I've been building up to this. Now it's time to talk about my best boy, Samurai Caliber. Okay, when I first saw this character, he basically is this weirdo that's just standing there that only Yuta can see and nobody else can see. And I'm thinking he's going to be an antagonist, or he's going to be some sort of, like, evildoer from afar. And then he comes in through the door. He walks head on into the door as the 4 swords sticking out of his back can't fit into the doorway. And he just slams through and just falls without even resisting. And in that moment, gentlemen, I was in love. I was in love with this Samurai Caliber boy. And it is just... it's so fascinatingly endearing the way this character interacts with the world and the way he moves. He feels and sounds off. Like, all the 3 of the other Genesis Junior High kids sound like they are people who can also transform into things. Caliber sounds like he is not quite human, or he is not quite on the same wavelength. And I think that actually impresses me the most about Ian Sinclair's performance of him, is that there's a slight tick and stutter to his voice that sounds very stilted and off, but in a way that makes sense for this kind of character. It is very much Ian Sinclair's voice, but it's like there's a slight little tick and something that seems a little off, and you can tell he's trying to interact with these characters, and he's going out of his way to be nice and, like, help them out, and he's capable, and that's really interesting to me. Like, he's being very nice to Rika, he's following these kids like a very loyal puppy, and when he comes slamming in through the door to take all of them to the Team Gridman hideout, and he bursted through the window, full momentum, and then he like tries to look cool, and then physics gets in the way, and then he just grabs them all, and it's just, he's like, okay, let's do Gridman stuff. He's really cool during action scenes, but he's a very interesting character, and I'm just so endeared to him right off the bat. Like, I love him. Ian Sinclair's performance is really interesting, And Caliber is my precious baby he's almost Moe in a way, now that I think about it. Just the way he interacts with the world around him. Like, it sounds a lot like Mezzo Shoji, now that I think about it, the way Ian plays him. But a lot more, like, stilted and... I don't know if he is human or not. It's just... he sounds off, but... he is trying to interact, and he is trying to very much be an ally and comrade to all of them. And he is like, I love Caliber. He is best boy. I know Boar is many people's best boy, but Caliber's actual best boy. Fight me. I went on for a long time about that. I'm very sorry. I'm sorry.
That's alright. That's alright. Alright, so starting off, I guess I'll go with the character who really hasn't done much yet, and that's Vit and Chris Burnett. Well, yeah, he really hasn't done much to advance the plot. I do appreciate the fact that he, at least on the outset, he seems like the guy that the rest of them use to talk to people. You know, he's the people person. He's the charismatic businessman who hands the business cards out. Like, he's the one who's supposed to be, like, he's the PR guy. And I like the, we have jobs and then we don't quote. That was really fun. And, like, he says a lot of fun things, particularly with Rika's mom, and it's fun. He's a fun character. I really hope he does, like, interesting things in the 7 or so episodes we have left. Afia Yu as Boar. Like, I really like that she plays him with a sense of spunk and, like, he's a little spitfire. He's a little go-getter. And he likes to poke fun at everybody around him, but it's never, like, a mean poking fun. It's just, like, he likes to jab at everybody's ribs. It's great. And, like, Afia Yu plays him with this wonderful sense of sarcasm that just, like, you can tell she's having a really good time in the booth. And, like, it's something Noah said in the Mr. Tonegawa episode, like, having that much fun in the booth should be criminal.
If I told you Boar in Japanese was played by Aoi Yuki, the voice of Tornado of Terror from One Punch Man, would you believe me?
Yeah.
I could hear it.
Yeah. It's very much similar kind of aesthetic, and yeah, I can hear it.
Yeah. Chris George's Max, I really like that he's sort of the teen dad. And, like, Chris George does the teen dad really well. I mean, after all, he's basically Nishigori. Like, that should tell you everything you need to know. He's, like, but I mean, yeah, that was, like, Nishigori was more of a goofy teen dad. He sits everybody down and has pep talks. Like, he doesn't get love and emotions, but he tries to help, and he endears you. Mm-hmm. Like, he's a good dude. And I really like Chris George's performance as him, and Ian Sinclair as Samurai Caliber. Like, Samurai Caliber is a weird, goofy character, and I like that Ian Sinclair kind of gets on that wavelength. Caliber is eccentric. He can't judge the entryway of a door and the swords on his back. And he will randomly jump through a school window and grab a bunch of kids, throw them on his shoulders, and then jump back out the same window. Like, he's a weird dude, and his scenes are fun, and Ian Sinclair, he gives, like, this sense of weirdness that's great and fun. So,
it's like weirdness, but also almost like a childlike innocence of the world around him. Because, like, I forgot about it, but there's a scene where they have the ramune bottles, and he's trying to shake out the little marble out of the bottle until he eventually does a really cool, like, samurai slash to get it out.
Oh, yeah.
It just I'm thinking about it. It's almost like a childlike innocence to him. And I think that's also another part of his charm and, like, endearingness to me.
But yeah, all four of these actors did a really great job with the kind of weird characters to play that kind of work in and out of their typecast, and it's good. All 4 of them are great. Good times. So are we ready to move on to our antagonists?
Oh,
boy.
Oh boy. We're gonna have some fun here.
Oh.
Alright, so starting off, we have... I don't even know what he is. But, his name is Alexis Carib.
Instant abreaction.
He's basically, like, from what I can interpret, he's basically, like, Melvillian Satan.
That is a good description of him, but my personal description is he is oh god, what's his name? This is gonna bug me. What's the name of the judge from Lulico?
Okay, dang it! I was going to make that joke when it actually came time for my turn, but I'm going to say it now. He is evil over justice from Space Patrol Lulico.
Thank you, over justice. Yes,
Yeah.
He is the evil over justice.
Yes.
That's what
His design is very over Justice-esque, and I
Thank you. I'm not the only one to notice that.
Oh no, it was very
No,
noticeable.
no, it's funny. Like, I actually didn't even think about it until I was writing my notes. I was like, oh wow, that's really over justice.
But he is manipulating a young girl in the class of the Gridman Alliance, who we'll be getting to in a second. Her name is Akane Shinju. She's kind of a quiet, bookish, nerdy type in the back of the class. She always seems to have her head in the clouds.
She is a moe girl. She is sweet and innocent, and she has done nothing wrong in her life ever.
She's sweet and sour, Andrew. Don't even try it today.
Until she gets into her room, puts on her crack glasses, and becomes a little devil. Now I'm just monsters.
Now I'm just thinking of that meme where it's just Akane just going, I have done nothing wrong in my life ever. And then there's just Alexis going, I know this and I love you.
But yeah, the second she puts on her crack glasses, she basically creates kaiju and kills people with them.
As you do.
Like you do. And our last antagonist is sort of similar to Yuta and Gridman in a way. He is a human-like being who can transform into a giant kaiju-like robot. And his name is Auntie.
Like, in a way, Auntie's almost fitting, because, here's some crackpot theory time. Auntie could definitely mean, like, he is both a villain, but Auntie could also mean later down the road he will become an anti-hero.
Honestly,
totally
I can
possible.
see that.
I'm totally getting major virile vibes from him, especially from the scarf.
And, like, suspiciously, he seems to drain the energy out of junk. About as much as Gridman. So that tells me there's some sort of deep connection between Auntie and Gridman.
It's a mystery. Ooh.
But in any case, Alexis Carib is played by Barry Yandel. You would know Barry Yandel as Zaruba from all 3 of the Garo anime. He is Yoki in Fullmetal Alchemist. He's a little demon in Soul Eater. And he's William Spears in Black Butler. Akane Shinju is played by Lindsay Seidel. Lindsay Seidel you would know as both Nene and Nono in Blood Sea. She is Nagisa Shiota in Assassination Classroom, Eto in Tokyo Ghoul, and Ruka in Steins Gate. Auntie is played by Stephen Fu. You would know Stephen Fu as Yohei Nikaido in Golden Kamui, Lao in Legend of Galactic Heroes Dinoya Teisa, Ruka Gojo in Nanbaka, and Yasuo Nanbu in Space Battleship Yamato 2199. So, Jet, why don't you start us off?
So, okay, so first, I I will start out with Alexis here. So, I never really said this out loud before when talking about Barry Yandell as an actor because it just kind of sounds like a weird thing to say out loud. But there's just like this naturally snide quality to his voice. It always kind of felt like it would belong to a Saturday morning cartoon villain for me. So I'm kind of a little bit surprised it's taken him this long to actually voice the equivalent of one. Well, minus Yogi from FMA, since he is kind of like... He did kind of feel like, dastardly dick to me, but whatever.
He literally had an evil mustache.
Yes, he did.
I think he even twirled the evil mustache in one scene.
Yes, he definitely did twirl the evil mustache.
You bet your sweet Bippy he did.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so everything about Alexis, from his mannerisms to his appearance, which, again, he literally looks like evil over justice from Space Patrol Lilico, pretty much screams that he's bad news, and while he has yet to technically do much besides just, enable our actual antagonist, he is 100% up to something, and everything about Barry Yandell's delivery just, portrays a mix of mustache trolling creepiness on top of, mystery, since again, we don't quite know what his endgame is. But it's simply been a fun performance to listen to. And in a series where the general tone has been, surprisingly grounded for a Tokusatsu thing, I'm glad that there's at least one character where, yep, you know exactly who this is. They aren't being subtle, you know what he's here for. Okay, and as for Stephanie Yu as Auntie, I'm not, super familiar with Stephanie Yu. I mean, I've heard him in things, but I guess this is, the first time I've seen him in, major billing for me. But I really like the raspy voice he gives Auntie, since, it gives us this, kind of villainous ass, but at the same time, there's a little childish quality to it that, kind of works, since, again, Auntie's kind of supposed to come off as, a confused kid where he doesn't really kind of know what else to do with himself besides, just fight Gridman and occasionally help Akane, which, doesn't really go over too well because Akane. And I always kind of feel bad whenever Akane treats him badly. And, and the weird kind of earnesty in Stephen's performance kind of helps that. Where, I mean, this kid seems kind of weird, but I like him. I hope things turn out well for him eventually. Also, I really appreciate that there's, a very clear vocal distinction between his human form and his kaiju form. And, that, whenever he uses the kaiju form, he gets, a lot louder and a lot hammier. And, he even gives off, a couple of really crazy lines, yep, that's right, it's me again. And which, again, does, really help to sell the whole Saturday morning cartoon homage. And lastly, for Akane. Oh boy. Okay, so when I first saw this character, and I heard the kind of voice coming out of Lindsay Seidel, I assumed this was going to be, a typical airheaded moe girl, and, she was maybe going to be the romantic rival for Rika or something. But as it turns out, Akane is more of an actual teenager. Specifically, she's a bratty teen nerd who, she puts up a facade of being, polite and unassuming in public, but secretly hates everyone for, little grievances that feel, kind of petty to us, but are practically a matter of life and death for, an angry, introverted nerd. And having been an angry, introverted nerd in my youth, I definitely understand this kind of character pretty well, and, I don't think I've ever seen an anime pull that off that realistically. And for a girl, no less, it's really impressive. And again, I especially appreciate the whole revelation with that, where it's just, the teacher bumps into her, and it's just dead quiet for that one moment, and again, you get the fist-high view, and it's oh boy. But going into the performance, it's simply been interesting because for the kind of personality I described, I feel like it shouldn't really go that well with the cutesy boy girl voice that Lindsay Seidel is using. But weirdly enough, the context actually helps to make it. The context there actually helps to drive in more attention to how toxic a lot of Akane's behavior is, and Lindsay Seidel really gets across that bratty attitude basically perfectly. It's a little weird hearing her do this kind of voice for me, since, personally I'm kind of used to her sounding a lot deeper, or doing, quieter characters like Nagisa from Assassination Classroom. But it definitely works here, and it's really done a lot to help make Akane a very compelling antagonist. I mean, even if we are probably going to get some kind of tragic backstory for her that will quote-unquote explain her behavior, even though I don't really think the show needs to, because... Okay, because again, bratty, spiteful nerd seems like a pretty clear personality. I don't think he really did backstory for that. Anyway, I've been enjoying that. My only real complaint with the character so far is just this whole really weird bit in episode 5 where they seem to kind of be, where they kind of gave her up a little bit for some weird reason. And it's kind of weird because, like, the first few episodes of the show, I mean, like, there is some fan service bits here and there, but it wasn't, like, really blatant.
Like, for the first 4 episodes, it was pretty, like, there was really not a lot of, like, cheesecake or what would be horny on main qualities. Most of it was just the fan art. But then it was like, episode 5 was like, okay, that is a shot. That is a very long
like, literally
shot.
The opening shot is really just a slow pan of her, like, in a gravity shot, and it's, like, really weird.
Like, I mean, subject matter-wise, it was kind of fitting, because it was, like, a gravure pose on, like, bags of trash.
Oh, there is some sort of visual metaphor going on with that. I love it.
Yeah, there is some sort of visual metaphor going on with that I guess might be there, but for me personally, it kind of it felt slightly detrimental because, Akane is clearly supposed to Akane is clearly meant to be very unlikable at this point in the story, so I kind of hope that doesn't happen again. But anyway, all 3 of these performances were really good. Liz in particular was really great, and I'm done.
Okay. Jamal?
There's no way I can top that. Anyway, starting out with Alexis, Barry Yandel. It's funny, a lot of times I'm not used to Barry Yandel's voice, but ever since he's come up more in simuldubs, I'm starting to get accustomed to it. I did remember at one point somebody pointed out that his voice in the show had like a Tim Curry kind of quality to it, to which I'm like, I don't...
Oh, definitely.
But the thing is, I don't really hear Tim Curry. To me, it just sounds like Barry Yandel in general. Like...
No, to me, Barry Yandel's voice sounds very naturally Tim Curry-ish.
If you say so, I guess. But yeah, he plays the bad guy very well. I was completely impressed when I first heard it. I was like, okay, I could get used to this. Auntie, I'm used to Steven's voice. It's funny, he has a weird vocal range to where one minute he can sound like Alejandro Sam, to the next he can actually be screaming like a little girl. Which is weird because it actually did sound like a little girl was screaming at one point. But Steven Fu, his voice, I like how you said, Jet, he distincts his voice between his 2 forms. Because his monster form, he sounded like another person we'll get to in the next section. But I thought he handled that. I thought he handled that quality very well, and it's also funny because when Roots was making his draft, he said Mysterious Boy. I thought the whole time Mysterious Boy met Samurai Caliber. I never even seen the guy in the first episode, so.
No, he was, like, prevalent throughout, like, the key art and...
I didn't see the key art, though. That's the
True.
thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so pretty much, like... And like I said before the Kakuryu episode, I really want to hear Steven more things, because he is starting to become very prominent at this point to me. And Akane, I like how Lindsay provides the boy voice to the character, because... And it really shows throughout the show. It kind of demonstrates, it lulls you to a false sense of security because you think Akane is nothing more than just like come off as like a boy airhead. I didn't really think she'd be the love interest kind of thing, especially after the first episode. But something did seem off, especially showed in episode 2. I was kind of surprised. Well, I'll get more into that part of the final thoughts, but I was kind of surprised how like it ended up that she was part of the antagonist, if you will. So it kind of provides a little bit of a creepy feeling because it's like she's just holding these grudges for these tiny little things, and she sounds so sweet, kind of like this, and you're like, okay, then you're starting to scare me a little bit, but she has a way of making you feel unnerving, without like being scary. So I kind of enjoyed it all the same, but though that one part you mentioned, I'm gonna bring it up again with the next character because there's something I need to mention to y'all. But for now, I really enjoyed these antagonists. So.
Okay, so first things first, Alexis. Barry Yandel is deliciously, hamtastically, diabolically evil, and I love it. Like I said, I never grew up with the original Superhuman Samurai Syber Squad, but I do know Tim Curry sounds like, and I could definitely hear it in the way he's pulling this off for sure. And I definitely think the fact that was something to keep in mind when playing this character, it's pretty great, but it's also a lot of his Zaruba voice. It's very much a lot of his Zaruba voice at the same time, and that's totally very fine by me. I think I saw something funny that I think Cliff tweeted out where he was simultaneously saying, like, some of the best feedback he's ever gotten was praise for making Alexis sound like Tim Curry, and then making a joke where it's like, who knew it was so easy to make an impression? It took me like a long minute. I'm like, god damn it. That's some good stuff. Well played. But yeah, no, he hasn't done much yet. He's very much he's the bad voice on the shoulder friend, but I think it's very fun watching him and Akane interact. Steven, as Auntie, he is very much an very angry, and very hungry boy who is trying his best to kill Gridman and also make Akane happy, and not exactly doing well at both of those things. But he's trying, and he is a very formidable, cool-looking antagonist. Like, he is very much a lot of fun, and he is very enjoyable when he's on screen. It's really... I'm not sure what his deal is or what his end goal is for the show, and that's fair. That's totally fair. But... So far I don't get the feeling he's particularly malicious, but we'll see. I don't expect him to stay evil for long, but that's fair. Now... But I do think Steven's voice is very naturally, like, he does a good job making him sound very gruff, aggressive, but also kind of, like, young and immature at the same time, too, which are very effective qualities. Now, Akane, Lindsay Seidel. This is... Okay, at first it was like, okay, I like Lindsay Seidel's very cutesy moe voice, because it reminds me a lot of Yuzu from Konohana Kitan, which was very sweet and cuddly, and Yuzu was adorable and very huggable. And then episode 2 happens, and then you realize, oh no, Yuzu is fucking evil as hell! And not only is she is evil in a fascinatingly identifiable way, in that she is minorly inconvenienced by people around her, and her base desire is, alright, I want you dead. Bye, bitch. And holy crap, that is simultaneously, like, as threatening and compelling an antagonist as you could probably get. And the way the show presents Akane, like, the way they present her, the way it says so much about who she is and what she thinks, and so very little. Her entire room is mise-en-scène about exactly what her character's about. She is a hikikomori otaku who retreats into her room, does not tend to her like base needs or appearances by a room literally littered with untaken bags of trash by giant, hundreds by the scale models of kaiju monsters and tokusatsu figures. 2-screen computer monitors and the necessities to just make kaiju models of her own. And that says a lot about who she is. Just the way the show presents her is really interesting. As for Lindsay as Akane, this is just one of the most diabolically evil characters I think I've ever heard her play. Yet, see, she simultaneously just sounds cute as fuck. And that contrast, and just the way the show lingers that there is something wrong with her. And I'm not even talking about the swimsuit lingering. I mean, like, genuinely the show lingers on, like, this character's body language and presentation and the way she interacts with people around her. And her two-faced nature. She's scaring the hell out of me every time she's on. Because I believe this is totally what a very, like... This is what I feel a nerd who is judgmental of the world around them would do if they are unhinged and given the power to kill and do as they please and never get in trouble with it. And just the way she, like, antagonizes people. Just, like, the cutesiness, but just she is so, like, calm when she gets very scary and intense. But just the way she interacts with people around her is really interesting. Just, I love the delivery of, like, when she's basically interrogating Rika, and she's like, "Did you not hear me? The question was, why are you talking to Yuta?" Because she's trying to figure out, like, who's Gridman and why she's hanging out with him. And then she tells Grid's auntie to go wild. And then just, one of my favorite deliveries is when she is extremely uncomfortable at the group date gathering with all the guys there, and she says under her breath after, like, he touches her shoulder, she's just like, "What the hell's wrong with these old dudes?" It's like, it's a funny line, but it's like, she's very, like, visibly upset by this, and it's very
and you know
much
shit's coming.
Oh, you know people are gonna fucking die. You know bitch is gonna die. It's just, there's a lot of impressive performances, but I'd probably say Lindsay Seidel as Akane is, like, my favorite in the show, period.
So starting off, this is my favorite kind of character for Barry Andel to play, Alexis Carib. Even in terms of, like, Zaruba, like, this is absolutely Faustian. Like, even more so than the Soul Eater Demon. Like, he is actually showing up to Akane's room. Like, he is whispering things in her ear. He's not even telling her to do things. He's just like, "Oh, those girls at the volleyball club said mean things. Isn't that rough?" And like, he's pushing Akane to create kaiju and create all this chaos herself, and it's like, it is wonderfully delicious. There's not a lot to his character yet, which hopefully in the next 7 episodes of the show we'll find out a little bit more. Steam Fu's auntie. I really like the fact that in his human state he's just like this angry child. All he wants to do is destroy Gridman, and like, Akane is using that to her will, and like, it seems like he, like, that single-mindedness is just really kind of refreshing, and then he transforms into the robot form, and he's just like big, angry, growly. like, kill Gridman, and it's great. Like, it's, like Jet said, this is, like, all Saturday morning hamminess, and it's, like, between him and Alexis, it's just, it's like I'm 10 years old, sitting in front of the TV with a bunch of popcorn and, like, Whoppers, and, you know, it's cool. It's fun. And, Lindsay Seidel as Akane Shinju, like, her voice definitely has an air of menace that you don't initially catch until you know her character's deal. And then once you figure that out, you can't unhear it. Even if you go back to the original episodes before the big revelation, and
I did, and the foreshadowing's there. It's great.
Like, it's wonderful, and, like, I feel like that's one of the advantages to a whole bunch of episodes being done well before the show actually debuted, which gave plenty of time to dub it, and, you know, stuff like, oh, Akane's actually the bad guy, and I'd imagine it gave some time to go back in, course correct, if she was initially played as, like, a love interest in an original cut of the dub, and then, like, episode 2 comes along, and, like, there's time to quickly go back in there and edit a few lines to make it sound a little more menacing. But, like, her performance was really, really good. And it gave me chills, and going back to the first episode really kind of reinforced that, and it's great. All three of them were terrifying, and it was good. All three of them did a really good job. So are we ready to move on to the Gridman Alliance?
Mm-hmm.
I think that we should go on to the Gridman Alliance. Man, there's a lot to talk about with this show.
Yeah.
So starting off, we have Rika Takarada. Her mother owns a junk shop in which the computer where Gridman is basically kept is somehow inexplicably there. Like, no explanation, no real anything. It just happens to be there. And Rika's initial role in the Gridman Alliance is basically her mom owns the shop. So she's basically made a member so that they could have access to the shop and the computer. So in a sense, like, she's sort of similar to Vit in that way. But she ends up being kind of, feels like she's starting to be developed into a love interest for Yuta.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty obvious thing. I also have my own weird theories on where things might be heading with her and Akane, but I guess we'll see how that goes.
Shotsumi is Yuta's best friend, and he's sort of thrust into the weird situation of all of a sudden being able to see kaiju, and like, he's trying to help Yuta as best he can, which is really only moral support, and because, like, he doesn't even know much about computers, so he's basically the jokester of the group, I guess you could say. So Rika Takarada is played by Jill Harris. You would know Jill Harris from such roles as Noelle Silva in Black Clover, Hibiki Iga in Basilisk the Oka Ninja Scrolls, Cardia in Code Realize, Mayaka Imbara in Hyoka, and Mandalay in My Hero Academia. Sho Utsumi is played by Greg Ayres, and you would know Greg Ayres from such roles as Ganta Igarashi in Dead Man Wonderland, Monokuma in the anime side of the Danganronpa franchise, Frost in Dragon Ball Super, Nagisa Hazuki in Free, and Minamoto no Yoshitsune in Drifters. Jet, why don't you start us off?
Okay, so I feel like it's been a little while since Greg Harris has had a prominent role in a simuldub, so this is a pretty nice change of pace. While Greg can do like a lot of different character types pretty well, it's always really nice whenever he gets to voice teenagers in particular, since that's a lot closer to his natural vocal register, and he usually helps to make his performances sound a lot more relaxed and grounded. And it's definitely pretty helpful in this case, since so far Joe just feels like a regular dude, like, like a bit of a nerd for sure, and, like, yeah, he's a bit of a nerd. He's definitely got, like, his petty moments, like when he gets jealous about other guys fighting over Akane and stuff like that. But he's definitely not, like, he's definitely not a nerd in the same vein as Akane is, where, Akane wants to take out her frustrations on everyone else, but whereas Greg, again, so far, is kind of seems like a regular dude. And the performance here just, like, really reflects that so far. He plays show, it's generally pretty chill, while, still getting more passionate or riled up when he needs to, whatever the situation calls for it. I do get the feeling that Joe's knowledge of, like, Ultraman lore might play into the story later on, but for now, he's a pretty okay guy. And Greg handles him pretty well. Joe as Akane is very interesting. Much in the same way that Lizzie Sano was for me as Akane, because it's not an archetype I generally associate with her at all. I'm used to seeing Jill Harris play, like really peppy and energetic girls like Fuka, or, really shy ones like Naho from Orange. So seeing her play, like a very kind of kind of downer teenager is definitely a little something new for me, and so far I really like it. It helps that that much like Akane, she's one of the more realistic depictions of a teenager that I've seen in an anime, but whereas Akane is again, more of a secretly vengeful nerd. Rike is more, like your basic apathetic teenager, who, she hates being asked to do things, but, kind of does them anyway because, she's nicer than she wants people to think, and she just generally has a very, like, do I have to, kind of approach to dealing with problems, which, that feels very much like a teenager to me. And, it's definitely very refreshing to see, and Jill Harris tackles those aspects of her really well, in a way that feels, just incredibly natural. And, even though we haven't spent, like, a ton of time with her as a character, Jill's consistent delivery when it comes to that tone has already made this one of my favorite performances of her, and it's really fantastic, and I'm definitely very curious to see where the story takes Rika, because it's pointed out that the kaiju do kind of seem to be centered around her in particular, and she definitely seems to have maybe been friends with Akane before, so I don't think she's responsible for Akane being Akane. Akane just kind of seems like she was always that way. But I feel like it might have something to do with why Yume lost his memory, but I guess we'll see how that goes. Anyway, I'm done.
Okay.
Jamal?
Yeah, I kind of share some of the same sentiments with Usumi. It was nice hearing Greg Ayers again in a role like this. I mean, and it's funny because I was trying to bring it up earlier, but I want to spoil it because I thought Anti in his monster form was Greg Ayers in a dual role, which is kind of a testament to Stephen Food's range. And it turns out I was dead wrong in that case, but Greg really manages to play up. This is not the first time Greg has played like this type of character before, but at least like he's being moot about it, like. Because normally when he's playing this type of character is like either kind of perverted or like pretty shy. Like, no, this dude's just pretty chill. He kind of has this thing for Akane, but yeah. So I thought Greg did a pretty good job in this role. It's not something I'm used to seeing Greg Ayers do, but he manages to handle Utsumi to the best of his abilities, even if Utsumi doesn't exactly understand what's going on and acts like he does. Rika, on the other hand, like Jet said, this is not a kind of role I would associate Jill with, because Jill usually plays characters that are like go-getters type of thing, like, so much excitement in one area, but when she plays this character, Rika's kind of apathetic, especially at the beginning, because You're like, okay, you pick up this amnesiac student who's in your class. You two have never had any interaction before now. And it's like, where do we go from here? She manages to accompany him, to acclimate him back to normalcy, or as close to normal as he could get. And I thought Jill handled those moments very well. I thought Rico overall as a character was pretty cool. It's something and kind of akin to Akane, when Jet brought up with the whole fan art thing. It's like, a lot of people seem to like Rika very much.
She has a very cool design.
Very cool
design. I think her design... Like, I think a lot of the character designs in the show, in general, are very appealing. And I think Rika and Akane, in general, like, have cool designs. Like, without even talking about the obvious, just their designs are cool, and the art I have seen is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wish I didn't have to see so much for my Twitter feed, but hey.
Welcome to Twitter, let's be real here.
I'm just saying, Rika as a character is very genuine, very real, and I really want to see where it goes between her and Yuta. That's all I have to say.
Alright, so starting off with Utsumi, because there's not as much to talk about with Utsumi, personally. Though, that being said, it was really nice to get to hear Greg Aries do a much more casual, laid-back version of Greg Aries. Like, this seems much more of what I would imagine Greg Aries' actual natural speaking tone is. And that's very interesting to me, because usually he's much higher up there, or a bit more of a spaz or a crybaby and a lot of stuff. This is just like older teenage Greg Aries, and it actually works a lot better than I was expecting it to. He works very well. Like, okay, how do I describe it? You know what? My reference is Sunohara from Clannad, because in a very similar way, it is a similar type of character, in that he is the supporting best friend character. The thing that's different is that Sunohara is very much the little tiny bitch baby who's very loud and obnoxious. Utsumi is much more, like, subdued. Actually seems like a lot older. He's taller. And, like, he's not that unappealing to... He's not that unappealing or, like, that obnoxious to the class. Like, he actually looks pretty, like, handsome in his own right. And hell, the girls appreciate that he's got a little bit of chub to him, too.
Yeah.
Which that was a weird scene, but I'm like, okay, you know what? That's funny, and I respect that. Hey, that was something. But yeah, no, I like Greg Aries' tone that he brings to Utsumi as a character. Speaking of which, Rika. I kind of adore how Jill's portrayal of Rika is listless to me in a way. Like we said, we know Jill Harris is like much more like cutesy and overt, or sometimes more quiet and tempered, like actual best girl Hifumi from New Game.
Gee, wonder why you bring that up.
Look, it was gonna come up at some point. Point being, this is like much more casual in a way that's it feels less like Jill is playing her like an anime teenage girl and more like she is playing her as a teenage girl. This is sort of a weird way to explain this, because like in anime, there is some way that characters portray themselves, over-accentuate, exaggerate, and like I said, you make the emotions much more, like, exaggerated when they're angry, much more exaggerated when they're embarrassed, much more exaggerated when they're shy. This is, like, very down-to-earth in a way that's really, really interesting to me and feels very natural. Like, in a show that is surprisingly out there, which is about, like, basically giant toys combining together and kicking the shit out of, like, poor CG monsters, it feels like the human element of it is very much still down to earth and genuine. And despite not being the main character, Rika Takarada feels very much like the emotional center of this series in a lot of ways. And I think the way that Jill plays Rika does a lot for me as a viewer in being endeared to her as a character and, like, being intrigued by her relationship with Yuta, by wanting to know about her deal with wanting to reconnect with Akane, her emotional turmoil when she thinks that he's dead and, like, she's afraid everything's falling apart, the way she interacts with, like, her mom, how she's kind of like, yeah, whatever, mom, but also just calls her mama and is, like, very endeared to her. It's just, there's so much going on with Rika as a character. I'm really intrigued to see what they do, and I'm very, very impressed by Jill Harris's portrayal of this character, and it's really, really strong. Like, her and Lindsay are probably neck and neck for me of my favorite performance of the show.
Yeah, same here.
Alright, so starting off with Greg Ayres as Utsumi, I really like that he plays him as sort of Yuta's wingman. Like, not even in the romantic sense, but just, like, the two are really good friends. You can tell that even from before whatever the incident was that took Yuta's memories away. Like, they seem like they're cool, they're chill, and, like, Utsumi also gets a lot of really good one-liners through the course of the show. Like, I think he's the one who basically asks in episode 3 or 4, like, he's like, to the Neon Genesis Junior High, you know, to the group of Neon Genesis Junior High, he basically asks, so which one of you four is the strongest? Just, like, this dead silence, and, like, that's, like, one of my favorite scenes of the show, because it's just really good comedic timing. And, like, I really like that, like, Greg Ayres is able to just let out a quip every now and again, and it seems natural, and I'm really glad the show didn't portray him as, like, the designated pervert or something. Because he's just a good friend. Mm-hmm. And, like, anime needs more of that. Just the good buddy. And I feel the same way with Rika and Jill Harris. Like, secretly, I think they could have made her the protagonist of the show, and it really wouldn't have been much different. Just on the side of the guy who's, like, the hero. Like, that would have been interesting. But in any case, I really like that Jill Harris kind of has almost a stoic sense. Not necessarily, like, I don't know, like, not necessarily noble, but she kind of didn't care at first, and then, like, over the course of the episodes that we've had available to us, she sort of warms up to everybody, and, like, you can really tell that when Jill Harris's performance. It's really nice, and, like, I could go on, but I think everybody else has said it a little better than I have. So, are we ready to move on to our protagonists?
Yep.
Alright, so starting off, we have the amnesiac himself, Yuta Hibiki. A mysterious high school student who just kind of lost his memory and has some sort of connection to the giant hero Gridman, who in and of himself is a being who tries to remind Yuta of his mission, whatever that is. And it's, even 5 episodes in, it's not made abundantly clear what that is, but it has something to do with the kaiju and, like, their mysterious appearance in the world. Like, there's implications that there's something weird going on beyond the walls of the city that Yuta lives in. Like, in episode 5, there was a fight sequence with a giant kaiju, and at the very end of the episode, like, all the damage to the mountain area that they were visiting is just still kind of floating around. Like, it's being rearranged, and, like, a whole bunch of mysterious stuff is going on. So Yuta Hibiki is played by Brandon McInnes. You would know Brandon McInnes as Yuna D. Kaito in Cardcaptor Sakura Clear Card. He's Count Saint Germain in Code Realize, Samon Goku in Nanbaka, Roman Yamashira in Tsukigaki Rei, and Corteo in 91 Days. Gridman is played by Robert McCollum. You would know him as Reiner Brown in Attack on Titan. The Wizard King Julius Nova Chrono in Black Clover. He's Oda Nobunaga in Drifters, Don Quixote do Flamingo in One Piece, and Shinya Kogami in Psycho-Pass. So, Jet, why don't you start us off?
Okay. So it's kind of funny that even though these two are technically the protagonists, I honestly kind of have the least to say about them so far. Like, even putting aside the whole amnesia thing, Yuta so far just kind of feels like, like a regular dude. Like, like, he's a likable dude, but, he's kind of the least interesting member of the ensemble to me so far. I mean, like, although I do appreciate that the mystery with him, in regards to the whole amnesia thing is more like, how did he lose his memory rather than who he was before losing it, because we already kind of were explicitly told he was just like a regular guy, and we've already seen who his friends are, so I appreciate they aren't making a big mystery out of that. So, in the same vein, while Gridman is like, Gridman is pretty cool, he also hasn't really done much besides advise Yuta and fight kaiju. But getting into the actual performances, I'm not, like, super familiar with Brandon McInnes. Like, I mean, I've heard him in other things, but much like Seth and you, this is, like, my first time really seeing him in the spotlight. But so far, he's been really pleasant to listen to. He makes Yuta come off as, unassuming and awkward out, feeling like a totally bland blank slate. And all his delivery for the transformation sequences feels pretty on point for a Saturday morning cartoon, and I mean, I like him. I mean, I'm certainly very intrigued to find out more about him, and I like all of his interactions with Sho and Rika. I think those are pretty fun. Similarly, going into Robert McCollum as Gridman, again, he hasn't really gotten to do all that much that could really make me evaluate his performance beyond he sounds cool, but I mean, hey, Robert McCollum has a cool voice. And I know from experience that he's a very reliable actor, so, I mean, I know he'll be able to deliver on something when the time comes. I just hope that time comes very soon. I mean, like, I kind of wish I had something stronger to say about these two performances, but for now, I like their place in the ensemble, even if they aren't, like, the most interesting part of it for me. So, I hope they get to say that more, but I like them so far.
Okay. Jamal?
Before I get into talking about these two, can we talk about how, like, Yuta just transforms into Gridman? Like, he does this little pose that says Access Flash, and if you ever see Power Ranger CEO, it looks exactly like the morphin pose from there.
Damn, you're kind of right.
It does.
Yeah, it does.
Anyway, back on topic. Brandon, Brandon did a pretty good job, even if Yuta doesn't talk as much, because obviously the main focus would be his relationship between him and Gridman. So, to which Gridman, Robert McCollum is a very fine actor. Like, he handles Gridman very well. He manages to make his voice sound stoic and authoritative. And I also learned the other day, because, when you voice acting, sometimes you move with your hands to emulate motion. I think Cliff put a picture on his Twitter of him holding his little Samurai Caliber sword from what he had as a kid. And I thought that was a pretty neat touch that Robert incorporated into Gridman, because, it makes him really feel like he was in the role. Granted, these two characters don't talk much until the time comes, which is odd for protagonists. I really thought he did a very good job.
Yeah. Andrew?
Yeah. It is kind of unfortunate that, like, the technical leads are the ones I have the least to say about, but that being said, I do very much enjoy the performances both give. Robert McCollum as Gridman is this very heroic Super Sentai figure, larger than life, very much like words of wisdom. I also love how he's being very motivational when all this dumb teenage drama stuff is like, remember to never give up the fight in the face of adversity. Is like, just, that was just very swell the way he commands himself. And Yuta is very much more of a lost puppy main character, amnesiac character, so there's not much to him. But that being said, Brandon does a really solid job of making him like this lost kid who is also like sort of in a rom-com action mystery setting, which is all sounds like kind of weird, but it's very interesting. And I like there's a lot of mystery to this world, and I think whatever the deal is with Yuta, I am still very compelled to learn how or what it is. And I think he does a good job. I think both Robert McCollum and Brandon do a solid tag team Sentai duo to save the world and fight all of the poor CG looking monsters.
Okay. Yeah, I think Brandon McInnes is doing a really good job as Yuta, and basically he's basically just like a team. Like I really appreciate that, and like it's similar to Tsukigaki Ray, where I just really appreciated Roman for just being there. And I mean I guess Roman kind of had that weird hot for teacher thing going on, but
yeah, let's not speak of that.
But like I just really like the fact that Brendan McInnes like plays Yuta as a kid first and foremost, and like he is a bit of a blank slate, but there's like I am kind of intrigued to figure out what else there is to him. And Robert McCollum as Gridman, like I really like the stoic, heroic kind of bravado he gives, and like the scene where he's kind of awkwardly giving dating advice without knowing he's giving dating advice, like that's great. And yeah, I did see the pictures of Cliff giving Robert the Gridman sword from his childhood to play around with in the booth, and like that's really cool and a really nice throwback. I do feel kind of bad that like the main protagonists, like everybody else, are the characters I have the least to say about, but really I appreciate Brandon's performance kind of blending into the background. That's not necessarily a bad thing, especially with a character like Yuta who basically, until he's needed to summon Gridman, blends in. He's probably one of the most inconspicuous kids that you could think of to be this giant kaiju fighting hero. So, like, the both of them did a really good job, and, like, yeah, thumbs up, guys. Alright, so, Jet, are you ready to start us off for final thoughts?
Okay, so after sitting through that other Trigger Mecha show this year, I wasn't, like, super excited for this one, but enough about it seemed intriguing enough that I figured I would give it a shot, and, fortunately that intrigue has, paid off so far. This has felt like a really fun love letter to Tokusatsu shows for, like, what little I personally know about those. While also having, like, a grounded enough tone to make me feel like it might end up being something more ambitious than that, which could certainly be fun. And, the dub has definitely helped a lot with that so far. It's been really strong with a mix of, really good natural-sounding performances for our teen leads, and, campier ones for the Tokusatsu characters, like the Genesis High Schoolers or Alexis. Time will tell, if this show ends up sticking the landing, but for right now, it's definitely the strongest thing the fall had to offer for me so far, and the dub has definitely helped play into that, so it's good stuff.
Okay. Jamal?
Yeah, I'm really liking this show. Like, I guess if you had to put it in tokusatsu terms, the way to think about it is this. Gridman is kind of, in a sense, Ultraman, whereas Donegan the Franks is like Power Rangers Megaforce. Let's put it that way. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And if you see Megaforce, you know exactly what I mean.
Yeah, I understand that reference.
But yeah, I think what Cliff's done here is pretty solid so far. If I had any real concerns about the dub or the show in general, is that the way the show it's pacing itself. I mean, it's like it's blowing this digital download. Like, I'm worried about where this story is gonna go. The way they introduce all these new characters at the beginning, so it's like I'm getting a little concerned for myself. I'm not gonna make any speculations because I'm not gonna give him the satisfaction of being smug because only he knows the answer to this. But I just I too hope this show sticks to landing. The dub is doing a very good job of that so far. I have high expectations of you, Cliff, and you too, Clayton, because y'all been doing very good so far.
So, I'm not going to pretend and say, like, I'm a Trigger fanboy or anything more at this point. It's like, they've done good things I really like. They've done things I also don't like too. Simple as that. That being said, like, I was a little cautious going into Gridman at first, but I've really grown attached to the show that is Gridman. It is this strange world of mystery that I don't understand where it's going to lead to, but in just a few episodes, it has endeared me to its cast of characters, its strange world, and its really awesome, like, compelling tokusatsu fights and moments. It feels like this is a Saturday morning show at heart, while simultaneously also trying to show something else. It makes me nervous that I am afraid it's not going to stick the landing, which is totally fair and valid, but I've gotten quite engaged and gotten along with the show. Like, I believe the world and its characters would act like this, and I'm pretty impressed for the most part. Like, Clifford and company are doing a splendid job with the dub. Like, some of the strongest stuff I've heard from the fall season, though there's a couple more I definitely plan to check out, and there's some really compelling characters and performances that really impressed by.
So, I found out about this show when it was announced Anime Expo, I want to say it was like a year or two ago. And, Trigger as a studio is hit or miss. Like, there are things I really liked from it, like Kill la Kill, and there were things that most certainly did not impress me in the slightest, like when supernatural battles become commonplace.
Wait, what?
I forgot that was a Trigger show, yeah.
What the fuck?
Yo, you didn't know?
Hell no!
That was just like the one.
That was the one time.
I don't know if
that was the one and only time I think they did a light novel adaptation.
Yeah, I don't think they've done adaptations of literally anything since then. Okay, well, no, Ninja Slayer.
You just blow my fucking mind right now, man. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
that was Trigger. But in any case, like, they're a very hit or miss studio for me, and basically the only reason I was really hyped for Gridman was the fact that I did actually have knowledge of Superhuman Samurai Syber Squad, which, by the way, in case you didn't know, the 4 S's in the name,
Superhuman, it's a reference to that, which I thought was a very cute
connect
touch.
the dots. But which I thought was a nice touch, and that endeared me to the show a little bit. before it actually came out, and I really have to say the dub for it, it's really nice. It feels right, and that kind of reaction takes a lot of work on the back end. Like, not just the actors, not just the director, not just the scriptwriter, but like the engineers, the marketing team working on the show, like all of it has kind of hit in the right way, and I'd really like to see where this is going. I like the designs of the kaiju ranging from like long-necked dinosaur to spaceman fish to gritty. But yeah, the characters feel natural. The camera work and set design is all great. The dub is spectacular. And yeah, I really hope the show sticks the landing, and that would basically be what it would take for me to recommend it to someone. But for now, it's really fun. And like I guess I would recommend people check out the first couple episodes, and I really hope like the ending is something that would actually make the show memorable for years to come. Sort of like Ava, you know? I really want something of that caliber to come out of like alum from that show.
I'm not. I think that's a bit of a high stretch, but
yeah,
at the very least, yeah, if this show can like stick a solid landing in regards to like character, action, story, I'm excited to see what it can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, I hope it can at least stick the landing enough that it'll be like, what is a good mecha show from Trigger, and I can point to this and not the other one.
Like I said, I'm not going to spend this entire thing shitting on Frank, because I know people do like it and stuff. It's just...
Okay, I know I should probably stop. It's just really amusing to me.
Yeah. But in any case, if you would like to check out SSSS.GRIDMAN, you can find the dub on Funimation now. A subscription is $5.99. You get a 2-week free trial. And if you're not a fan of the service, make sure you cancel before that trial ends, or they will charge you. The subtitle version is on Crunchyroll. That is, I believe, $6.99 now?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
And same deal, 2-week free trial, cancel if you don't like it, you know. Unfortunately, at the time of recording, Verve would be an option, but unfortunately, by the time this episode goes up, the Funimation and Crunchyroll split will have happened, and the dub of Gridman will no longer be available on the service.
But yes, go watch it on Funimation now. That's where you can see the dub. If you want to see the sub of it, it is still over on Crunchyroll.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure if the split will affect the subtitle version. Probably not. All right, so I guess that's the end of the episode. If you are interested in anything that we do, head on down below and hit the subscribe button if this is on the YouTube feed. You can also find us on Twitter at dubtalkpodcast, and we also have a Tumblr and Instagram of the same name.
And a Twitch.
And Twitch.
And a Twitch that occasionally gets used for
And for game streams and stuff, we're still figuring it out, but we have one and we use it sometimes.
Yeah. And, well, you can find the four of us on the internet. So, Jet, where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at username Jet Infinity, where I will, usually be talking about anime, manga, that sort of thing. You can also occasionally find me on my blog, Animation Infinity, where I will occasionally write stuff. And, so stop on by, you might have a good time.
Alright, Jamal, where can we find you?
I'm on Twitter at Jamstar529. I'm on YouTube at Jamstar1. I have a blog. I don't know why I keep talking about it. I'm not doing anything with it right now. I'm the assistant editor for this podcast. That's pretty much it.
As for me, my name is Andrew, otherwise known as MangaMan9000 on Twitter or Classy Spartan, and you can find me over as a moderator for Funimation forums and Discord, as well as another podcaster for Surreal Resolutions anime podcast ONA alongside Jet here.
Okay, and you can find me on Twitter at Rootsofjustice. Mainly just retweet cute animal pics and sometimes talk about general fandom stuff, anime, cartoons, movies, that deal. Come on down, you might have a good time. And my blog is Roots of Justice Anime Time Blog Show.wordpress.com. And I plan on having some stuff started up probably by the end of the month. So look forward to that.
Cool.
Yeah, excited to read that. Cool.
Alright.
Yep, that is the end of the show.
Thank you all for tuning in.
God, I'm so tired. I can't think of a witty quip here.
Yeah, I guess go turn off that TV and go play outside.
Kick some gigabutt.
Make sure to always check your junky TVs. They could have a superhero inside.
Keep it downloaded.
Otaku on there, Devas.
Access Dub Talk. And cut.